Yeah. bluesash.uk.org.
Oh, there you are. Wonder where he went. 1 minute it's in, next minute it's gone.
Testing, 1, 2, 3, 4. About 2 minutes to go, and then we've got to start because we're running a bit late. Technical hitches as usual. Nothing to do with Trafalgar Square, I'm sure, but just, how we say, acts of God or whatever. Never mind, we carry on. So, can you gather round? Can you gather as close as you can this time? Last year, people were sort of ranged around at the back, and we really need to sort of give the impression of a good crowd here, right? This is going out to the world, don't forget. Okay? We're meant to be a crowd. So come forward, please. Okay, well, okay. Yes? Right, we're ready to go. Welcome everybody to the UK Rally Against Child Abuse 2011. May I introduce first of all our organiser Emma, who's done all this fantastic work to get this rally together. And we had a good rally last year, but she's put obviously double the effort in this year, and in her condition as well. So a big round of applause for Emma, who's done the donkey work here. Okay, well that's the credits over. I'm Belinda. For my sins, I seem to be in front of this mic again, and I'm going to do my best, although we're slightly more organised this time. I think we can safely say that we are a bit more organised. So we have a list of speakers. We're going to start off with probably concentrating on the most difficult area that we're here today to talk about, which is establishment child abuse. Now, child abuse in any shape or form has to be the worst thing that goes on in any society. What could be worse than to abuse a small child? Can you tell me one thing? Maybe a vulnerable elderly person, an animal, but we are human beings, and these are our children, these are our future. We have to have zero tolerance for child abuse in any shape or form. And I don't care whether it happens inside a family home, if it happens in a children's care home, and we know historically that happens over and over again. These children's homes where children are taken from their parents or have lost their parents are targets of really disgusting things done by local people who should know better, many of whom happen to be in positions of public trust. And that's really where the establishment abuse issue is centred. It's the people in positions of public trust that I personally have got my finger pointing to most sharply. And then also there's an even worse situation where governments, whole nations, use children of other nations and other indigenous peoples of this planet to carry out their agendas of genocide. So we're going to be covering very, very likely, I'm afraid, because we haven't got time, all those separate issues, or as many as possible. And I'm going to be asking a question as well. Is there a state agenda, and I'm only asking a question, but I'm asking it, is there a state agenda to smash up families, remove children from parents, and put them with these paedophiles? Is there? I'm not saying there is, I'm asking, is there?
Yes!
Right, so I put the question out there. We're going to be looking at that as well. Now, by contrast, if child abuse in any shape or form is the worst thing that can happen in a society, what could be worse? Then to stand up against child abuse, to fight against child abuse, to make the whole of your society aware that it goes on, has to be the best thing that you can be doing in your life. We want more fighters against child abuse. We've got some fantastic groups here. You know, looking around, I'm just amazed at the dedication and the inspiration that goes behind some of these groups. And I can see many of them in front of me, and also some were camped up there in the square overnight. And that wasn't a pleasant experience for those people. Those few ladies and one or two children and a couple of gents came from places as far away as Newcastle, Liverpool, Devon, all over the kingdom to camp overnight, and they'll be doing the same to make their voice known about child abuse and how disgusted they are that it goes on in our society. So 2011, we started again 2010. It's 1 year further on. We're gathering force. We're gathering momentum. We are now, I think I can safely say, thanks to the work of a great person who is not with us today. And I think we don't need any of us to guess who that is. Can you all shout out his name? Chris! That's right, Chris. Thanks to Chris, we have become a family. I've been watching for weeks with absolute amazement how many people are gathering around Chris to lend support, to say that we're fighting this together. There are hundreds, there may be thousands by now. Maybe for all the hundreds that have signed up and who are actually on the Facebook site and on the emails and all the networks, there may be hundreds more who may be still a bit frightened to come forward. And that's another problem. Because if your family has suffered from this terrible, terrible thing, you know, a member has been abused, you've been abused, your children are in danger from the family courts. If all that's going on, it's very, very hard to come forward publicly or even to write your name on Facebook. So, if we multiply all the ones that are already brave enough to come forward and say we're going to fight this together, for the ones who are still dithering, we've probably got hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people supporting this issue. And the same goes for this rally. You know, again, it's difficult to come to Trafalgar Square, you know, Nelson up there, the public, the heart of the nation, when you're the target of some witch hunt going on in your own locality, and there are cameras everywhere, and you could be spotted, and then awful things, reprisals could be taken against you, so it's hard. And so I always say for every rally that we have, and we're having several, you know, locally as well as this national one, and we had one in April thanks to this wonderful man Chris and Bill Maloney, and Bill's another one. Bill's another one who wasn't on our publicity, but who has done more than practically the whole of this square rolled into one for this issue. He works incredibly hard. So a big round of applause for Bill. And there he is, Pie and Mash Films. The best films you'll watch, because they really move you. They really change your heart and your mind about everything. So watch those films, buy those films, support Bill, support Chris, support all the prominent people in the front line. So, I don't know what else to say because we haven't got much time. I've got to say one or two little technical things, so I'll say them because my organiser is breathing down my neck. We are not allowed to swear. I'm sure we understand that. We unfortunately couldn't have music this time because we haven't got a licence. We're just a demonstration and public speaking, but no music. Sorry. There was a lovely rally in April with a lot of music, so sorry you can't do that this time. We haven't got enough time with all the speakers anyway. And then, all right, okay. So there's the main thing. There's a children's play corner over on my right here, which is already in use. A very happy little girl in there. And there's a table which is absolutely jam-packed with leaflets, stickers, banners, T-shirts, and also a contact form to sign. Please keep in contact with us. There are never too many contact forms to sign. We want to keep in contact with every one of you because we can tell you what's happening from now on, because things will be starting to speed up. And we'll be having local events as well as these occasional national rallies. So we want to tell you, if you're in a certain area of the country, what's happening in your locality. So now, what? Oh right, sorry, bottles of water in the kids' area. Toilets at the back. And Mercedes at the front, right. That's it. So let's start off with our lineup of speakers on the subject of establishment abuse, and again with the question mark about the state agenda of child stealing, child trafficking and child stealing, and that's a question mark, okay? The most high-profile campaign at the moment against establishment child abuse is undoubtedly the Holly Greig campaign. I make no apology for being part of that myself, and here is my colleague Robert Green, who's going to update you, because things are moving in this campaign.
Thank you very much indeed.
Yay!
Thanks everybody, and thanks to Belinda, who's a wonderful, wonderful support, not only in the Holly Greig campaign, but in many other campaigns as well, as many of you will know. Also, just to say a little word again for Chris Whitwer, who's done some great work. Let's hope that he's back as soon as possible. He's done some marvellous things, and he's an outstanding person. So our best wishes go to Chris. Anyway, just a very quick question here, just for anybody in the audience. Security services, anybody from MI5, special branch, anything like that? Anybody here today? Don't be shy. Nobody putting their hands up. Just a quick mention, because these people are around, is just to remind you of your obligations to your country. You're here to look after the interests of the people of Britain, not to protect a paedophile elite. Let's make that clear. Thank you. Well, we've only got a few minutes to speak today, so I'll just bring you up to date with the Holly case. Obviously, I could speak for hours on it because it's so complex, and many of you have a little bit of a rudimentary idea of what's been going on. Some of you have a good knowledge of what's been going on. But we have had a very significant breakthrough in the last 3 or 4 weeks. We've had some very brave people coming forward from the political spectrum at last, and from 3 different parties. First of all, we had David Ruffley, who was a Conservative MP for Bury St Edmunds, who's come forward and attacked the Scottish Government for the way they've handled the Holly Greig case and wants explanations. Then we had Lord Moulton from UKIP, who publicly came on camera and demanded an investigation into the case. And just this week, we've had a very gallant MP from Cornwall, from the west of Cornwall, and his name is Andrew George, and Mr George as well has gone very hard for the Scottish Government on this, for a proper explanation for what's been going on. All those things have been very valuable indeed to us, but there's something even more important that's occurred that some of you might have seen on the headlines yesterday from the firm, and that is the fact that the Scottish Commissioner, the Freedom of Information Commissioner, Mr Kevin Dunian, has formally ruled that Alex Salmond and the Scottish ministers have been in breach of the Freedom of Information Act 2002 Scotland in not divulging information requested by a very gallant member of the public here called Ian McFerran, who'll be talking a little bit later on, which is a great breakthrough. This is an official document really condemning the Scottish Government. He's also gone on to say that if the ministers, and it is addressed specifically to Alex Salmond, do not come up with all the information that has been requested of them by Mr McFerran by the 11th of July, then he will approach the Court of Session with a view to having Alex Salmond brought on a criminal charge of contempt of court. As this is the first minister of a country who's just been elected, and for the Commissioner to put that in such strong language, I think is a major way forward. So we're very pleased about that. Now, obviously a lot of things are happening in Scotland, and we're putting a great deal of pressure on all the corrupt politicians who have served to cover up this story. In particular, of course, there's Elise Angelini, who's been forced to resign because of all the lies she told about her involvement in blocking the Holly Gregg case when she was Procurator Fiscal in Aberdeen in 2000 and 2001. We've caught her out thanks to some help from two members of the Scottish National Party currently, strangely enough, Brian Adam and Richard Lockhead, who's also one of the ministers in Scotland. So we're pressing those two gentlemen to actually put pressure on Mr Salmond to come clean about all this and to ask for a public inquiry into everything to do with the Holly Gregg case, including what we believe to be the murder of Holly's uncle, Robert Gregg, who was a key witness who witnessed Holly's father abusing her, and we believe he was murdered in 1997. There's been more strength that's been put forward on this particular issue by the Malcolm Webster case, which some of you may be aware of in Scotland, where the person who found that Mrs Webster, the first Mrs Webster, was apparently accidentally died in a burning car, just the same as Robert Gregg. The same pathologist has been involved, and two members of Holly's family who were named abusers and have also been named as abusing their own children. So all of those things need to come out. There needs to be a public inquiry in Scotland, an open, independent inquiry, and let us get to the truth of this. We don't want anybody condemned, without a fair trial or a fair hearing, but we've certainly got enough, certainly to show corruption and cover-up by senior Scottish politicians and police officers as well. So let us hope that that comes about soon, but we are getting plenty of support there. I won't go on too long because obviously other people need to have a chance today, and you're nodding at me, Belinda, thank you. But just to say that you'll see down the poster there, Shropshire, about Shropshire's shame. Shropshire come into this because obviously in the gang, social workers were named. Scotland, the Shropshire people, who should have nothing whatsoever to do with this, other than the fact that Anne and Holly lived there after escaping from Scotland. Sorry. Oh, yes. The 3rd of June last year, as Belinda's reminded me, the Shropshire Social Services got the police to actually come and raid the home of Anne and Holly in their village on the ridiculous pretext that they were missing persons. Now, I can tell you that was complete nonsense, because I got a call an hour and a half before the raid at home from DC Ed Bates of West Mercia Police, saying that social services were worried about the whereabouts of Anne and Holly, and could I help? Well, of course, Anne and Holly don't account for me every minute of the day where they're going to be. I'd seen them a few days earlier and understood them to be taking a very short holiday, which was the case. I thought that was quite enough, but just an hour and a half later, the police officers concerned, as well as two council workers, broke into the home of Anne and Holly, as I say, virtually 1 year ago, 3rd of June, and not only spent 3.5 hours allegedly looking through a small house to find people who were supposedly missing, but ransacked the house, devastated it in the most appalling way. Obviously a clear attempt to intimidate these two ladies to try and protect their social worker criminal friends up in Aberdeen. Now, there is a court case involving this, and we're going to have another hearing. It's not a major function, it's just a procedural one that's going up on the 14th of June at the Royal Courts of Justice. If anybody wants to come along, they can do. We're most welcome. It won't be very long, I don't think, but we're just taking the council on that. There are some very bad people in the council who have behaved in an abominable way towards Anne and Holly, the victims of such terrible, terrible atrocities. I'm going to name one or two of those people. The head of the child services is a woman called Councillor Aggie Caesar Homden. The person who was in charge of the chief executive of Shropshire Council is a man called Kim Riley. The head of the legal services is Tim Collard, and finally the social services officer who's been responsible for this persecution of these two vulnerable ladies is a man called Stephen Collard. And Stephen Chandler, I'm sorry, Tim Collard and Stephen Chandler. Stephen Chandler, by the way, won't surprise you, social services, high flyer, just over 2 years ago was found to be, was working in Worcestershire when his department were responsible for the awful deaths of a woman and her son in Redditch. Of course, Chandler was brought forward to explain himself, tried to blame other people for it, but the next thing we know, he's there with a similarly high-paid job in neighbouring County Shropshire. That's the way it happens with social workers, isn't it? Senior social workers, anyway. Anyway, very much today, I'm going to pass on to the next speaker. Thank you very much indeed. But we've really got to fight for the rights, the destructing efforts of the family court and those who are appropriate. There are obviously corrupt, a lot of social workers are very good, but there are plenty of corrupt ones. There are plenty of corrupt psychologists who give false information. And I'm sorry to say there are false and corrupt judges who also need to be brought to book over this. Let's see an end to the family courts. Let's see the end to secrecy. Let's have open family courts with the press and the public there. This is a blot on our political, on our own judicial system. It doesn't happen in many countries, but there's a powerful vested interest for financial reasons and also for reasons of paedophilia who want to keep this going. Let's bring it to an end right now. Thank you very much, all of you.
Thank you, Robert. Certainly, that was a call to arms. And notice one of the first actions that we can do, which is naming and shaming, that's right up there as a very important part of this whole campaign. Because the people who do these bestial things to children do not want their identities publicly known, or even who are complicit in covering up for their colleagues. And it's the covering up that also we're targeting here. The public officials who know that their colleagues are up to no good and who bend over backwards to keep their names out of the public. So let's get those names, not just of the paedophiles and the people who are benefiting from child trafficking racket that's going on, but also all the public officials in a local authority who may be complicit, and I'm afraid some people in the police as well, sorry to say. Right, is Brian Gerrish around? Brian? No? Right, Brian can be safely relied upon to give what you might call an alternative view of the bigger picture of this whole area. He runs the UK column newspaper, which I think now has a circulation of getting up to 10,000 or maybe more by now. Well, I hope he turns up later. But since Robert has already introduced this whole issue of what is going on in the family courts and the child stealing racket, and I mentioned that already, I think we'll go straight on to a very high-profile victim who's come all the way from across the water to talk to us about her personal experience in this atrocious and abominable practice. She had her daughter taken from her by the family court and placed with her paedophile ex-partner. And not only that, but having lost one child, having just given birth to a new gorgeous little baby, who luckily is a famous baby now because she's been in the newspapers, she was about to have the baby taken and had to flee the country to escape this mafia. So I introduced Vicky Haig, who's also very famous in the horse racing and training world, horse training world. She's a horse trainer, so she's no mean person to actually have this as a public profile person to take this forward. Vicky. Oh. Hi everybody. I'm not really a campaigner and I've never liked politics, and here I am, standing in Trafalgar Square, speaking at a rally, working alongside John Hemming, the MP, doing something that's totally alien to me. I'm a racehorse trainer, an ex-jump jockey, and I'm also a mother of 2 beautiful daughters, and that's why I'm here today. Otherwise, I'll be watching the derby at home, which is running today, and it's a total one-off for me to be missing the biggest horse race in the world. But this is obviously a lot more important to me, and I will be speaking straight from my heart. I've got a 7-year-old daughter who I miss very much. She misses me. We're very close, and a mother's love and a bond will never ever be broken. No matter how hard these social services try to alienate me and my daughter from each other, they will never ever succeed. My daughter's been lied to. She thinks I've abandoned her. Hopefully, in another year or so, she'll be able to watch YouTube videos and she'll see what her mother actually put herself through to protect her from abuse. Thank you. Very uncomfortable up here. I'd much rather be on a racehorse galloping at speed over fences with 30 other horses around me. I'd like to talk about my personal story, which is unbelievable, but you need to believe it because it's true. I was trying to help my daughter since the age of 3 to protect her, and the authorities turned against me. They took her from me. They placed her with the person that she'd been telling the police on video, and social workers was abusing her. I haven't seen her since November last year. I had a miscarriage last year because of the stress and trauma of having my daughter taken from me. As you can see, I don't have 2 heads. I look quite normal, which I am. I'm an ordinary mother of 2 beautiful daughters. I got pregnant again. I was arrested twice this year. I was kept in police custody for 65 hours at 35 weeks pregnant. I was not given any food, any water. I was admitted 3 times to hospital during these 65 hours. And I was also dragged at 1 o'clock in the morning from a hospital bed by 6 police officers to take me back to the cells. It's unbelievable. No, I'm fine. No, honestly, I'm fine. So then I was advised by John Hemming, the MP, to leave my own country to protect unborn Haig, who was on the hit list. I received letters from Nottinghamshire Council saying unborn Haig was now on a child protection register and that she was at risk of emotional abuse. So I spoke to the social worker and I said, how can you emotionally abuse a baby that can't even speak? And she had no answer for that. Anyway, I took John Hemming's advice and I fled to Ireland to have a baby in peace. And she's there now. She's 3 weeks old. Baby Sapphire. Absolutely gorgeous. Like her older sister. And I've got 2 children and they are now living in different countries. They've never met each other. I thought there was a human right in this country, a right for a family life, to be left in peace, to enjoy not only your children, but your life, your family. What happened to mine? Where's my human right? Where are my daughter's human rights? To be living together, to be brought up together by their loving, caring mummy. Who's going to stop all of this? How are we going to protect these children? We need answers, and we need answers now. We need to get on to the government who are ignoring us. The ministers are ignoring us. They know this is happening. Surely they must do. There's enough of us now. In closing, I suppose, thank you for listening to me. Keep strong. Keep standing up for your rights. And that's my story. Thank you very much. Well, there is one brave lady, because she could have stayed where she's now living.